Karen smashed neighbors' speakers, then called police over loud music, gets fined. The summer evening hum of cicadas filled the air, but it was nothing compared to the piercing shriek of Karen Miller's voice slicing through the neighborhood. "Turn that garbage off," she bellowed from her porch, her wine glass trembling in her hand. The cul-de-sac, usually a haven of suburban peace, was about to become a battlefield. It all started with a barbecue. The Thompsons, a young couple who'd moved in next door just 3 months ago, were hosting their first neighborhood gathering. Laughter and the scent of grilled burgers wafted through the air, accompanied by a playlist of classic rock humming from a Bluetooth speaker on their patio. It wasn't loud, barely audible past their fence, but to Karen, it was a personal assault. She'd been simmering all day, her patience worn thin by the couple's hippie vibes and their refusal to join her HOA campaign for stricter lawn mowing schedules. The music was the final straw. Karen stormed across the lawn, her flip-flops slapping the pavement, and banged on the Thompsons' gate. "I said turn it down," she snapped, ignoring the startled faces of the guests. Mia Thompson, a graphic designer with a warm smile and a knack for diffusing tension, stepped forward. "Karen, it's just background music. We're celebrating with friends. Want to join us?" Her tone was polite, but Karen's eyes narrowed. "Join you? I'd rather eat dirt than listen to this noise pollution." The guests exchanged awkward glances, and Mia's husband, Jake, a soft-spoken mechanic, set down his tongs. "We'll lower it a bit." "Okay, no need to get upset." But Karen wasn't appeased. She huffed back to her house, muttering about disrespectful kids and ruining the neighborhood. Inside, she poured another glass of Chardonnay and glared out her window, watching the Thompsons' guests laugh and dance. The music, now barely a murmur, still grated on her nerves. She didn't just want compliance, she wanted control. And when the Thompsons didn't bow to her demands, something in Karen snapped. The next evening, the Thompsons were tidying up after another small gathering. The speaker sat on their patio table, playing a soft acoustic tune. Karen, who'd been spying from her kitchen window, saw her chance. She grabbed a hammer from her garage, slipped into the Thompsons' backyard through an unlocked gate, and smashed the speaker to pieces. Plastic shards flew, and the music cut off with a pitiful whine. Karen stood over the wreckage, chest heaving, a triumphant smirk on her face. She tossed the hammer into her own yard and marched back inside, convinced she'd won. But Jake had seen it all from the kitchen window. His jaw dropped as he watched Karen's rampage, her hammer swinging like a guillotine. "Mia, you're not gonna believe this," he called, his voice shaking with disbelief. Mia rushed to the window, her eyes widening at the sight of their $200 speaker in ruins. She broke it," Mia whispered, her hands trembling. Jake nodded, his shock turning to anger. "That's it. We're not letting this slide." The Thompsons didn't confront Karen right away. Instead, they called a friend, Sarah, a lawyer who lived a few streets over. Sarah, a sharp-witted woman with a knack for uncovering truth, suggested they check their security camera. Sure enough, the footage was crystal clear. Karen, hammer in hand, smashing the speaker with a gleeful intensity that made Mia's stomach churn. "She's unhinged," Sarah said, watching the video. "But this is evidence. You've got her." The next morning, Karen escalated things further. She called the police, claiming the Thompsons were blasting music all night, disturbing her peace. "I'm a single mother. Officer," she wailed into the phone, conveniently omitting her grown son who lived across town. "These people are terrorizing me." When the police arrived, Karen stood on her porch, arms crossed, ready to watch the Thompsons get their comeuppance. Officer Daniels, a seasoned cop with a no-nonsense demeanor, listened to Karen's complaint. "Ma'am, I'll need specifics. When was this loud music happening?" Karen gestured wildly toward the Thompsons' house. "Last night, all night. It's unbearable." Officer Daniels raised an eyebrow and jotted down notes before heading next door. Mia and Jake greeted the officer calmly, though their frustration was palpable. "We had a small gathering last night. Jake explained. The music was low, and we turned it off by 9 p.m. Mia handed over her phone, already queued up to the security footage. This is what actually happened. Officer Daniels watched the video, his expression darkening as Karen's hammer swung. He glanced at the shattered speaker, still lying in pieces on the patio, and shook his head. This isn't a noise complaint. This is vandalism. Twist as Officer Daniels prepared to confront Karen. An unexpected figure emerged from the crowd of curious neighbors who'd gathered to watch the drama unfold. Mrs. Delgado, an elderly widow who lived across the street, shuffled forward, her cane tapping the pavement. Known for her quiet demeanor and prize-winning rose garden, she rarely spoke up, but today her eyes blazed. "Officer, I saw it too," she said, her voice steady. "Karen's been harassing everyone on this street for years, complaining about my roses, my cat, even my mailbox. She's the one disturbing the peace." The neighbors murmured in agreement, emboldened by Mrs. Delgado's courage. One by one, they shared stories of Karen's petty crusades finding a teenager for skateboarding, reporting a dog for barking once, even demanding a neighbor repaint their house because the shade of blue clashed with her aesthetic. Officer Daniels turned to Karen, who was now visibly sweating on her porch. "Ma'am, I need you to step over here." Karen's bravado faltered as she realized the tide was turning. "This is outrageous," she sputtered. "I'm the victim here," but the officer wasn't buying it. He pointed to the security footage. "This shows you destroying private property. That's a crime. And based on what I'm hearing from your neighbors, this isn't your first issue." The confrontation reached its peak in the Thompsons' backyard, where Karen, Mia, Jake, and Officer Daniels stood surrounded by a growing crowd of neighbors. Karen's face was red, her voice shrill as she tried to deflect. "They provoked me. Their music was too loud," Mia, her patience gone, stepped forward. "Karen, you smashed our speaker because you can't stand anyone living their life. You don't get to control us." Jake held up the broken speaker, its wires dangling like a gutted animal. "This was a gift from my brother. It meant something to us, and you destroyed it for no reason." The neighbors' murmurs grew louder, their frustration with Karen boiling over. Mrs. Delgado's voice cut through the noise. "She's been bullying this street for too long. It's time she faced consequences." Officer Daniels nodded, pulling out a citation book. "Miss Miller, you're being fined for vandalism and filing a false police report. You'll also need to compensate the Thompsons for the damaged property." Karen's jaw dropped, her hands flailing. "This is injustice, I'll sue you all." But her threats fell flat as the neighbors cheered quietly, a wave of relief washing over the cul-de-sac. As the officer handed Karen the citation, Mia spoke up, her voice calm but firm. "We just wanted to enjoy our home. Karen, maybe next time, talk to us instead of swinging a hammer." The crowd dispersed, and Karen slunk back into her house, the weight of her actions sinking in. The Thompsons, shaken but vindicated, began cleaning up the wreckage, their resolve strengthened by the support of their neighbors. In the days that followed, the neighborhood felt lighter. The Thompsons replaced their speaker, and their next barbecue was louder than ever within reason. Of course, Mrs. Delgado even brought over a batch of her famous empanadas, a small gesture of solidarity. Karen, meanwhile, kept to herself, her usual porch rants replaced by silence. The fine stung, but the real punishment was the loss of her grip on the neighborhood. She'd pushed too far, and the community had pushed back. What do you think? Did Karen get what she deserved? Or was there another way to handle this? Share your thoughts below.